So I have the pleasure of introducing both Eric and Brayden for this next session. Both of these individuals are fierce advocates when it comes to accessibility, and so they're going to share some very, very key learnings that they have learned through the Hanson Trust Disability Certification that they just recently did this year. So on my left, who is no stranger to us because Eric has been here all weekend and has been up on the stage a few times. Eric has been with us. Eric is a recent graduate of Carleton University, where he attained his Bachelor of Science in Biology with a minor in Disability Services. Eric has been part of Jesse's journey and now Duchenne Canada since he was 4 years old and recently appointed to the board of directors. So thank you, Eric, for joining us. And Brayden, who is online, and he's our fierce soldier who is still sticking with us with a broken back, and I'm still digesting this, Brayden.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Is joining us virtually from Nova Scotia. He is a recent graduate from the Business Administration program at the Nova Scotia Community College Truro campus. During his 2-year program, he found his love for digital marketing, and he also happens to currently be a volunteer at Defeat Duchenne Canada as our social media assistant. He also enjoys playing video games, hanging out with his friends, listening to music, watching YouTube, and all things that have to do with hockey. And he is also very passionate about accessibility. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you guys some questions, and I'll start with the very first question that I have for you both. Can you each share a little bit about your background and how you become involved in accessibility advocacy? And Brayden, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. Okay, sure. So ever since I first started using a wheelchair full-time in 2017, accessibility has just been very important to me. Because as a wheelchair user especially, you really notice when spaces are accessible and when they're not. In 2018, I took my interest in accessibility and turned it into a mini blog on TripAdvisor. My brother played hockey at a high level, so my family and I traveled for a lot of different tournaments around the Maritime provinces. So I would write reviews about the accessibility of different hotels and restaurants I visited during those tournaments and stuff. And I still do it to this day. And I've also gained a lot of views on TripAdvisor. And I think I've helped a lot of people by just writing about accessibility, I guess.
Awesome. And Brayden, can I just say, sorry, I'm still digesting all this. Can I just say, if at any point in time you need to take a break or you need to leave, just please let us know.
Okay? All good. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. All right, Eric.
Should I have a microphone?
Oh, yes. Why do we not have a microphone? Oh, wait, there's one right here. I got one, sorry. Testing.
Perfect. All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay, cool. So I kind of became involved in advocacy by just saying yes to things. So I saw that Carleton University had a disability studies minor. So I said, yep, I can do that. Because although I am an expert in Duchenne muscular dystrophy as I have it, I wanted to become and see, learn more than just my own disability and see how other people in this country with disabilities are affected by everyday ableism and that kind of stuff. I also, when I was at Carleton, joined the Carleton Disability Awareness Center, where they hosted a whole bunch of just social events and hung out, and I got to know a whole lot of other people with disabilities that were doing the same thing as me, living on their own at university, and that was really cool. And that social aspect also broadened my horizons on what issues people with disabilities face that are similar to muscular dystrophy, but also different disabilities that can affect them. And of course, whenever an advocacy opportunity comes up with Defeat Duchenne Canada, I am like, yep, I'm all in. I'm ready to go. You just tell me where to be, and I will be there.
This is why we love Eric.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Eric. At what point did your personal experience become your passion for creating more inclusive and accessible spaces? Brayden, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I think my personal experience as a wheelchair user is really what sparked my passion for creating more inclusive and accessible spaces. When a building or space isn't accessible, I simply can't get in. That honestly sucks. It's frustrating because it feels like such a basic thing, but it can completely change my plans. So sometimes it means missing out on going to a bar with my friends or not being able to use the washroom at a restaurant. Situations like that really affect me, and not just in the moment, but also in how included I feel. Lack of accessibility can actually take away opportunities and experiences, and over time it has a big impact on my life and my well-being sometimes, not being able to do things.
And Eric?
Yep. So again, similar things to Brayden. When you're out in public, things just aren't accessible, and a lot of my interest mainly sparked from when I was living on my own. I always noticed that there was stuff like there was one time I was coming home from Toronto with my dad, and the elevator was out, so he carried my electric scooter down the stairs, and so. But if I was on my own, I wouldn't be able to do that. So luckily, I have, as we all do, amazing parents that help us every step of the way. But it became very apparent when I was living independently that it just doesn't work being like that. Like you start noticing automatic door buttons that don't work, or you can't reach them, or they're blocked, or a restaurant might be able, you can get into it easily, like it's accessible to get in, but the washroom is down a set of stairs, and so you have to go somewhere else to use the washroom. And also working with Defeat Duchenne, seeing how the lack of access to Duchenne treatments that are available in other countries, but not here in Canada. And so I realized as someone with a disability and Duchenne, I could do something about that because I feel my voice holds power.
Absolutely, 100% it does. When we talk about barriers for people with disabilities, what kinds of barriers are we really talking about, and how are you working to overcome these? Brayden?
Yeah, so barriers aren't just physical, that they can be attitudinal, policy barriers, programmatic barriers, or social barriers. So attitudinal barriers are stereotypes like assuming a disability means a poor quality of life. Physical barriers mean, of course, like narrow doorways or inaccessible sidewalks. Not being able to get into a building, that's a physical barrier.
Yep, and I think I could add on there. So yeah, the policy barriers these are rules, like the policies have been written. They're not inclusive. So even when companies or buildings follow the policies, it's still unhelpful to people with disabilities. And programmatic barriers it's like when you, like a visit to the doctor, it's hard to schedule. You don't have, the appointments don't last long enough to actually get the questions you need out or have the doctor answer them without being rushed. And also having a lack of accessible equipment. Like when I need to go do a bone density, there's no lift that can get me into the place. I need my mom to roll me on and adjust me, but we figure it out. But it would be much more helpful if there was stuff there. And then social barriers can be like a lack of support in education, which as we learned in the Rick Hanson, leads to decreased rates of people with disabilities completing high school, or increased risk of experiencing violence towards them. And then, of course, attitudinal barriers are the hardest thing to overcome, because it's easy to say, build a ramp or make sure an automatic door is open, but changing people's awareness and thinking towards disabled people can be very challenging.
Absolutely. We had a challenge actually here at this hotel. I don't know, those of you who have used the men's washroom, there's an accessible washroom in there with a sliding door. That's very heavy. And so we asked them to replace the door. And so their response to that was they put a big giant handlebar on it. I'm like, well, that still doesn't take away the weight of the door and the fact that individuals
that handlebar wasn't there before?
No. Yeah, no, it wasn't even there before, yes. Anywho, so this is definitely an uphill battle for us all. How would you define ableism and the built environment? Brayden?
Yeah, so the built environment is everything humans create. Buildings, roads, public spaces that we all access on a daily basis is the built environment.
Yeah. And when you look, the technical definition of ableism is that it's discrimination based on someone's disability. But it can be used, there is ableist language intentionally, But a lot of the time, I would say most of the time, it's very unintentional because people just don't know, and that's not their fault. They weren't taught it or they never learned it. But that's why it's important for us Duchenne boys to show up and bring these issues to light and hopefully make people think a bit more before seeing something that could be inaccessible.
And when you explain what the built environment is, what are the differences or the difference between accessible design and universal design? So why is universal design, for example, as important for everyone and just not people with disabilities? Brayden?
Yeah, so I guess, like I said previously, a built environment is everything, everything we create as humans, and design can either be open opportunities or create barriers. Accessible design focuses on meeting the needs of people with disabilities, usually by following codes. Universal design goes further, aiming to make spaces work for everyone. So parents with strollers, seniors, delivery people, people with disabilities. So examples of this include curb cuts, automatic doors, because these help people more than just wheelchair users. Curb cuts, they help people with strollers, and automatic doors can help people carrying bags and different things like that, I guess. Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah, so what we learned in the Rick Hanson thing, certification, is that equitable use is a part of universal design. So that means the space is useful for everybody. So although we're at the Defeat Duchenne Forum, it's equitable use is not just for people with Duchenne. It can be for people that are blind or like people that are short, people that are left-handed. It's everybody can have access to it. The second one, as with the heavy door, is low physical effort, which is a problem with a heavy door because you should be able to just push a door open and it's easy to do, especially in a public area when not everybody, and not just like people with Duchenne, kids versus adults. Kids need to use the washroom too, and if it's a heavy door, they can't open it. And there's also size and space for approach and use. So there's enough room for everyone to move, which I would say about the washroom here. It is a very small washroom, and I can I can just barely do a 180 in the bathroom. So making sure there's plenty of space is also an important part of that.
Oh, that's true. Thank you, Eric. You've talked about meaningful access. How is that different from just meeting building code requirements, and why is it important to go beyond the minimum?
I think I can.
Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
So yeah, it's more than code compliance. So a building might have a ramp or an accessible entrance, but if the layout inside is confusing or has narrow hallways or stuff like that, it's not truly accessible. And also, especially when it comes to apartments. So I am excited to say I'm soon to be moving into Toronto in about a month. And these are a few pictures of the place I'm moving into. So
very nice.
These three things didn't need to be in this if you look at the code. These things were not required by the Ontario Building Code. Although there are some companies that don't build accessible hotels or apartments, there are many that do, including this one. So as you can see, there's a proper roll-in shower. So it's not like it's got a little step to get over, because oftentimes places have a step-in shower versus a roll-in shower. And then you can see on the left there is a roll-under stovetop, and the oven is in a separate part of the wall. But most apartments, you would have a stove and an oven in one unit. But with this, I could roll under and cook stuff myself. And of course, on the right is the bedroom, which has the ceiling track on it, which is where you can put a ceiling lift to slide back and forth.
Yeah,
Now,
awesome.
so that's why this place I'm moving into was very well thought out. And it's nice to see when people with disabilities have been thought of when it comes to things like this.
Eric, sorry, I don't want to hijack it.
No, go ahead.
I'm curious, is the windows in the bedroom, like, are the windows in the bedroom accessible? Like, is it like smart windows?
The windows are not smart windows, but the door to get in and out of the apartment is a power-operated door. But luckily, my place, I have attendant care that will be able to help me open and close the doors. But the the thing to open and close the windows, they are very easy to reach, and they're not heavy curtains.
Thank you.
And when's the house party?
Oh,
Brayden, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just think it's really important to go beyond the minimum because building code. I think I saw something to do with Rick Hanson that. So like building code, I think it's only like 30% on the Rick Hanson like gold scale. So building code is not really accessible. They only focus on like physical disabilities, but they really don't focus on other types of disabilities like mobility, or I guess they do, but like vision. They don't really focus on that much. Hearing disabilities and just simple language for everyone to understand. They only focus on physical disabilities, which there's a lot more disabilities than that. So I think it's important to talk to lots of different people with disabilities.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you, Brayden. Beyond doing the right thing, what are the business and community benefits of investing in accessibility? And what would you say to an organization that you think is, or that thinks it's too expensive or too complicated? Brayden,
Yeah,
do you want to start? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So like we said before, that accessibility, it benefits everyone. It also attracts customers, employees, and visitors. And people with disabilities and their families control over 538 billion in disposable income in Canada. Yeah, so that's actually a lot of money that could be adding to businesses. And the Rick Hanson Foundation Accessibility Certification Gold adds only about 1% to construction costs, and only 13% of features require extra investment beyond code. Accessibility is not just the right thing, it's smart, and it doesn't even cost that much extra either in the construction process of the building.
And Eric?
yep. Yeah, that's what we learned is that, well, I mean, this apartment that I'm going into it because it's accessible. And so they got me into it, which is very exciting. And yeah, I think we learned that, I think, what is it here? That, yeah, to be our HVAC gold, it only adds about 1% to the construction costs. So it really, when you start from the beginning, because obviously having to redo it to make it accessible would cost a lot of money and take a lot of time. But if you put it into the very start, like right when they're doing the architecture drawings, right at the start, it really does not add that much to the final cost.
Okay. And so what would you say are your biggest takeaways from this? And we're very appreciative that you both have, taken the time to do this certification piece, and we're very fortunate to have you both here to be able to share your key learnings. But I guess my question is to both of you is, what was some of the real things that resonated with you, or what do you feel were your key takeaways from this training that you did? Eric, do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my biggest takeaway is seeing how much work still needs to be done. But it doesn't mean that people don't care about it, because if you tell someone to make something more accessible or look at it, they're very passionate about it. They want to do the right thing. They just don't know how, which is why it's good that the Rick Hanson Foundation does this certification program, because it teaches people how to go be a professional and go to buildings and rate it. And buildings that want to participate in it are really actually want to participate in it. It's not like they're being mandated to and they're like, oh, you got to do this. No, they are very happy to do it. And it's also cool learning how by making accommodations for other disabilities like blindness and low vision, that benefits us with Duchenne as well. So by doing an overall, making it fully accessible for everyone, it makes it accessible for all people with disabilities, and it makes it easier for people without disabilities that may have children and are pushing stuff around or are carrying stuff. And it's just better overall for everybody to make stuff accessible.
That's a really good point. Brayden, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so my biggest takeaway after completing the Rick Hanson certification is how much I learned about other types of disabilities. So as a person with Duchenne who uses a power wheelchair, I'm an expert on what people with mobility disabilities need, but that was about it. After taking this course, I now understand what people with vision and hearing disabilities, for example, need for a space to be accessible. My second takeaway is learning the differences between accessible design and universal design. I really didn't realize before this course that just adding a ramp isn't enough, as it mainly supports people with mobility disabilities. Universal design focuses on creating spaces that work for everyone, whether they have a disability or not. This is definitely the way of the future, I think, and I think a lot more new constructions will be going towards this because it's important to help everyone, not just focus on one type of disability. And I think in the past, I think they just focused on mobility disabilities, but now I think people are starting to focus on all different types of disabilities. Yeah, that's my
good.
takeaways.
That's good to hear. I like that.
Mhm.
So Brayden and Eric are accessibility experts. So are there any questions from anyone in the audience like to pose a question to either Eric or Brayden?
Hi. I really appreciate you guys, talking about it. And just a comment on the things that you talked about, the cost, right? So I just last year had the opportunity to construct a new house for myself and my kid, thinking about the future needs in mind, right? And when I started that entire process, right, as you mentioned, the initial cost of getting the design is very, very less, right? And when I compare that to the cost of modifying my current house, it was way, way more than the cost to get a new design done, right? And I think so as parents, if we have the opportunity, we should look ahead 10, 15 years and try to make our homes as accessible as possible, because I feel that home is a very personal space where if that is made accessible, then the kids will feel that it is something that the parents have done out of the way to get that things done. And then from that knowledge, my next step is to apply that to the school he will go to, try to advocate it there, right? So now I have the weapon where I learn the things, and I would encourage every parent to work with your occupational therapist. They will guide you. Our occupational therapist guided us through that entire process of making the home accessible. And it's really rewarding and a learning experience.
Thank you for that. And a good plug for our OTs.
Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to make the comment that my father used to talk about municipal governments and say, there's always money to do, or there's never money to do it right, but there's always money to do it twice.
I think we had one over here.
Yeah, so question to you, because we just went through this in Petawawa. One of the roads that needed repaving, they repaved it, they put in new curbs, all the things, and they've got like kind of divots. These are the worst curbs to take a wheelchair over. So so when we know
Yeah.
who the construction companies are, because there's only a limited number where we live, should we be like reaching out to them and say, hey, could you guys take a look into this so the next time you build a sidewalk, you can do it in a way that a wheelchair isn't in danger of tipping over? Because James is sometimes petrified and he turns
Yeah.
around backwards to go down them.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you definitely should reach out to the company. Because in my area in Nova Scotia, they redid a bunch of the sidewalks, and they're also kind of hard to go over. So I would, yeah, maybe try to reach out to the company and get them to take a look at it. Because people, like, it's not their fault sometimes that they don't know what people can go over in wheelchairs, but I think if you explain it, then they'll be able to see it. I just think people don't know things unless you explain it to them. Sometimes.
Yep. And I actually have a personal example of how my mom actually helped, because we were driving down the road and we saw someone in a wheelchair that was stuck. Like their tire got stuck in the divot trying to get over the curb. So she got out and helped him get over it. But she talked to our town councilor that represented our area. And then it was, I think, a week later, we saw the town was down and they completely redid it and added a crosswalk as well. So yeah, definitely talking to the people that constructed it, as well as your city councilor that represents that area. They are always happy to help, and ours was, luckily. So there we go.
And just to say, his mom, Darlene Morden, who I don't know, maybe online, but she's an incredible mom who has been very much involved with Jesse's journey from the very beginning as well. So if she's online, a shout out, say hi, Darlene. You're awesome.
I just want to thank you guys for sharing your learnings. And I think from an advocacy perspective, as somebody who has worked so much with elderly folks in healthcare, I always say accessibility is everybody's business because our population is aging. This is
Yes.
where we're all heading. So when you're talking to people, this isn't about just people with Duchenne or people with a physical disability. This is everybody, and we're all
Yes.
heading there. So when we can create communities that can move together, be together, we create healthier communities. So I always say let's look at that from that. And I know you guys highlighted that so much in your talk about universal design, but this is really everybody's business. So
Yeah.
I think that messaging, that verbiage goes a long way.
I love that. That's so true.
Hi, Eric. I'm just going to ask you a question because I think you're probably the closest to the expert. So when you went to Ottawa, you obviously had, I think, attendant care.
Yes.
That was built into the university. What's on your, in terms of your radar? What are the best institutions for providing kind of that sort of support at the college level, perhaps, and I guess university as well in Ontario?
I think the only two I can think of, and I know two, it should be more than that, are York University and Carleton University.
Okay.
I think those are the only two on my radar that I can really think of because, yeah, York University does it through the March of Dimes, and which is actually the attendant care I'm going to be getting when I move into my apartment. And yeah, Carleton University has that as well. And yeah, they've got a great team out there. And sorry, little shout out to Carleton. The tunnels are great. Because so any Duchenne boys thinking, I know I'm repping my Carleton stuff, but yeah, they've got the tunnels so wheelchairs don't get stuck in the snow. That's the major part.
Yeah.
But not having to go out in the cold is a bit of a bonus. But yeah, so Carleton and York.
Does Algonquin College affiliate
Yes.
with Ottawa?
Sorry,
So
yes.
they would do same kind of thing?
Yeah, Algonquin College, they actually have the team at Carleton. They do both Carleton and Algonquin.
Okay.
Nice. Actually, and I can maybe add Brock to that list too, because we just
Yes.
recently went through this with our son Owen, who's now in his first year at college. But when we were looking in universities, Brock was on our list as well. At least that's what our folks suggested. But yeah, that's. I guess the for everyone else who's thinking about that, one, we're going to have a whole session on that later this afternoon, so stay tuned for that. But these are all really great questions too for your OTs within your clinical care clinics that can help connect you. Oh,
Hey, just one question over here. Is there anything you can imagine or that you've seen technology-wise that you hope to see more of here in the future, aside from the few things in the apartment that we've seen?
One thing I'm definitely starting to see more often are the button, like instead of automatic door buttons that you have to reach up and grab, are the long ones
Yeah, the long ones. I
that
like
you
those
can
ones.
drive up to. And so there
They're
were
great.
lots of those at Carleton where you just drive up to it.
You hit it with your
and-
foot, right?
Yeah, like
I
it's
love
the length, it goes all the
Those
way
are
down
great
to the
ones.
ground.
my favorite ones.
And so, yeah, you drive up to it and I can push it with my feet and that's how the door opens.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very exciting one.
Yeah.
well, any other questions? Oh, yep.
Yeah. And sorry, just to expand, because, yeah, there's a lot of times I find, like, I either can't reach the button, or they're turned off, or they're, like, you have to push it in such a specific way that it opens, which tires out your arms trying to lift them up and push it in like that. So, yeah, being able to drive up to kick the thing is very good. Sorry.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Eric and Brayden, because
Yeah.
when James was getting ready to come back to school after virtual learning, and we engaged with our school board, actually not even just the school board, the principal, they had things, they were preparing for him to come back with the push button at the arm level. And it was only probably 2 to 3 weeks before school was starting, and we said, no, we had been to a location, where? We were at the Van Gogh exhibit in Ottawa, and they had these vertical strips, like you were explaining. And within 3 weeks, they had changed the work order. And basically, the schools now that James has attended have these, the vertical bars that he can drive the footrest into, and it really makes a difference. So if it's coming to that point, ask, and hopefully there's a receptive principal out there that's going to, you know, make the necessary changes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brayden.
Yeah, so my school, so when I was going to a new high school, they also installed those buttons. The principal's office and the library and the student services office, they didn't have like buttons at all before I went there, so I had to get those on, but those are the only buttons I can use, so I do like those ones, the long vertical ones.
That's amazing. And I just want to make one more comment about, we talked about also adapting our homes and thinking about moving to new homes, and just to bring that humanistic part to the conversation, since that's been a theme for today, is, you know, I think it's really important to get a really good contractor as well, because one, there's a lot of emotional weight to the home modification piece, depending on where you are in your journey. And I know that it's always good to start these things early and make sure you're prepared, but also want to consider the, you know, emotional part of that, because often it's very difficult to, you know, to emotionally be in that place and be prepared
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Not only that, but, you know, you're building, it's not like you're building a new home and it's exciting because you're going to get a new bathroom and you're going to get every single new thing. Like when you're picking tile, it's attached to the why of why you're doing it. And
Yes,
just,
that was hard for my
Yeah.
parents.
right? Sorry,
Yeah.
Brayden, go ahead.
I said that was definitely hard for my parents because when we first built our new house, like in 2015, there was like a step up to the shower, and we really had to fix that after a few years, which costed a lot of money. But
Yeah.
I think they weren't really told, and they might not have really wanted to think about, oh, he'd be in a wheelchair in the future, and it would be like, yeah, like they just didn't really want to think about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's an emotional reason why some people might not think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
definitely
for
true.
Yeah, and I mean, I have stuff in my home now that I'm just like, why did we do that? And we were doing it for accessible, like we had it in mind, but we really didn't know
Yeah,
until you
exactly.
need to use it and you're in it and you're doing it that you realize what you actually need. So all of those things just add more complexity. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Brayden and Eric. I am so glad that you guys were able to do this. And
Yep.
we're going to talk as well about how we continue to have these conversations moving forward and share your learnings with our families, because I don't think this is the end. I think this is just the beginning. So thank you so much to both of you. Really appreciate it.